Good morning, everybody. As of this recording, as you can tell by my completely frozen over pond now, it's cold out here. It's actually 17 degrees Fahrenheit as I'm recording this morning. So, shocking headline. Got your attention, didn't it? What's old creepy Uncle Joe up to on his way out of office? What's he banning? Well, my goodness gracious. If you were to listen to Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, and read her recent post on X, formerly known as Twitter, you would believe that he was banning all these things. She posted he's banning natural gas water heaters, offshore drilling, and he's commuting sentences for mass murderers. Well, as I mentioned, it's 17 degrees out here. My feet are already very cold, as are my fingertips. My face is starting to feel it, and well, I have a gas water heater in my house, so this caught my attention when I saw this in a headline or whatever, because this would affect me if this were the case. And, well, is it true? Partially. Let me read you, and I went to multiple sources again, because that's the kind of guy I am. Here's what's going on. This is from the New York Post. A Biden administration ban on certain natural gas water heaters as part of the lame duck president's climate agenda could send prices soaring for the elderly and the poor. Just like it says in the description box there. One last kick to struggling Americans before heading off to his 5,800 square foot mansion in Delaware. Under the policy, new non-condensing natural gas-fired water heaters will be prohibited for sale starting in 2029 due to concerns about carbon dioxide emissions. The policy comes during President Biden's twilight days in the White House and was quietly announced without a press release. Well, why would they not have a press release? Were they trying to keep it secret? Because people like me might be upset, people like me that have the traditional natural gas-powered water heaters? I don't know. If the policy, now listen, wow, this next sentence, this next entire paragraph from the Post starts with the word if. I've said this for years, and most of you folks have probably heard this yourselves. If. Small word, big meaning. It's made up of two letters. There's only a few words in the English alphabet that's shorter. I, A. That's it. Then you got if. And some other two-letter words, but I'll get into that in a minute. If the policy takes effect, as it is slated to on March 11, a little less than 40% of the tankless water heaters currently on the market would be banned, according to an estimate from the Appliance Standards Awareness Project. Now, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? It makes it sound as if, listen, my water heater in my house, which I bought new probably 4 years ago because the old one, interesting, we made a video about that when it happened, actually caught on fire one night. And many of you long-term subscribers, and if you are a long-term faithful subscriber, please stay tuned to the end of this video because I am going to make a major announcement about this channel. Caught on fire. We got a new one, a gentleman that is subcontracted through Lowe's, not sponsored, but that's where we bought it, came out and set it up that day. It's worked great ever since. It's still in perfect working condition. So if I were to read all this, I'd be like, oh, great, I got to go out and get a new one. How much do the new ones cost? I think $18,000 to $3,000 is one estimate. And again, I checked multiple sources. Another source stated $1,200 to $2,000. But let me tell you, what I've just read to you and what we've talked about and what most people are talking about are only partial truths. The facts are you are not required to get rid of your existing water heater, even if it's natural gas. So before you panic and you want to just go argue with strangers on the internet you'll never meet about stuff you don't understand, please understand, you don't have to replace your current water heater. If it's still operable and in working condition, you can keep it. That's the case for me. So I was like, whew, because you really have to dig deep. Many of you can remember this because I'm familiar with the demographics of this channel because I understand the business I'm in. And it is a business. And you go ask any doctor who wants to cure the world, first and foremost, what's his number one or her number one priority? Running a successful business. Because if that business isn't successful, how are they going to cure anybody? All right, now with that said, once upon a time, 74% of my followers are my age or older, 50 something plus. Okay. Like myself, you probably remember when once upon a time you could go to one media source and get the full story and it was factual. Not anymore. You have to go, I went to 6 different outlets to find all the pieces of the puzzle because of the spin and the way everybody wants to put the information out there, all with the number one underlying main purpose being to get those clicks, to bring in the views, because that's where the money's at. It used to be with traditional media, you had sponsors. I used to sell newspaper ads when I was a sports editor for my college newspaper. I used to go door to door, business to business, try to drum up sponsors for our little rag of a media newspaper. This is in the 1990s. Now it's all based upon clicks. That's why, listen, I'm giving away way too much information. Let me continue with this. I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video because that's what the announcement I want to make. So yeah, you don't have to get rid of your existing heater, but I did make a note, except for maybe in California. I'm not familiar with their laws because they do change daily, and it seems they have different rules for different demographics. Yeah, they hold certain people to certain standards over there, and they let other folks skate. So anyway, these are facts, okay? The new water heaters, many which will still be natural gas water heaters, they're not disappearing, folks. They must be at least 13% more energy efficient than what's currently on the market. They are expected to cost on average $450 more than what's currently on the market. So let's say 2029 rolls around and I've got to go out and replace my water heater because it goes kaput. I'm looking at paying approximately $450 more than what I would have paid before this was passed. If it actually goes into legislation, I think incoming President Trump will probably nix a lot of this stuff that Biden's doing on the way out. So it's estimated that the savings for the homeowner will only be about $120 in energy costs over a 20-year period. Now that's per the Hill, stating my source. So in essence, you'd be looking at a loss of $338 over 20 years, which is $16.90 per year. Is that a lot of money? Well, I converted it to real world dollars. Like, what would that get you? A lot of the folks that are up in arms about it, listen, that's 2 less packs of cigarettes a year or 1 less 30-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Yeah, like, you don't even have to worry about no drink January. Just do like no drink January 1st and 2nd, and boom, you've just made up your excess you'd spend on that new water heater. Okay, so, but here's what they're really not telling you. This is where they get you. Listen, when you hear about inflation, people talking about, oh, the prices of goods and services are going up, everybody wants to blame whoever's in office, as long as the folks in office are of the opposite political party that they support. Yeah, now, if their party's in office, well, it's not those folks' fault, and gee, the economy's not as bad as people are saying. Inflation's relatively tame. You know how it goes. I worked in media for 20 plus years before I finally got out and just have done social media for the last 15. Let me tell you this. People do not watch their media outlets of choice on television or on the internet, wherever they go, to get the truth or to get the facts. They watch their media outlets of choice to confirm their current beliefs. Yeah, I know. It's one of the reasons I'm so hated on social media, because I spit facts and I speak the truth. People don't want to hear that. You see a headline to the video like this, trust me, I'm no fan of creepy Uncle Joe Biden, but you click on something like that, you want me to talk about how terrible and evil and how bad he is and how he's ruining the world in his final days in office, and you come here and I don't do it? Well, shoot, turn that hatred towards creepy Uncle Joe onto me, right? Why not? Gotta hate somebody. To quote John Bon Jovi from his song Keep the Faith from his hit album in the 1990s, you know, it had Bed of Roses on it. It says, everybody needs somebody to love. Everybody needs somebody to hate. I'm your Huckleberry. All right. Here's where they're going to get you, though. We hear a lot of talk about corporate greed. Right now, a lot of the folks who are in support of creepy Uncle Joe and despise incoming President Donald Trump talk about corporate greed because that's who they want to blame. So folks that hate creepy Uncle Joe blame him and his policy and his administration. Folks that support him blame corporate greed. Well, listen, I've said this for years. Maybe you've heard it. There's always when it comes to a story, you hear that, there's two sides to every story. There's his side and there's her side. I know a guy that used to say there's actually three sides to every coin. There's the face, or the heads and the tails, and then the outer edge that goes around. So with that in mind, I've often said this. There's what this person says, there's what that person says, and then there's the truth, which can generally be sometimes found in the middle of what both parties are saying, or nowhere near what they're saying at all. Here's where they're going to get us. Okay, this is where, when government comes in to help, and you might remember a wise man, Ronald Reagan said, the most 9 words you should fear most is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Here's what happens when government helps. It's a combination of government's sky in the pie, life should be fair, wishful thinking, combined with corporate greed. So they're offering a tax credit for these new, more energy efficient water heaters. And I got this from Google. I state my sources, and I do not steal other people's copywritten material. The tax credit. Yes, there is a tax credit for energy efficient water heaters. $2,000 per year per heat pump water heaters that meet certain efficiency requirements. Energy Star certified models for tanks less than 55 gallons, yada, yada, yada. Basically it's going to work out like this. The same way it's worked out the last couple of years for heating and cooling systems, and we know about that because we went through that experience last calendar year, 2024, and I'm going to show you that truth that's somewhere in the middle. So basically, the credit is available for products purchased and installed between January 1, 2023 until December 31, 2032. The credit amount is 30% of the project cost with a maximum of $2,000. So, a lot of folks don't understand taxes. I do. Trust me. I'm on a very personal relationship terms with the IRS. That basically, you hear about tax deductions and tax credits. Here's the difference. Something that's deductible, say for instance, mortgage or interest on your mortgage, you can deduct that if you itemize. Most people, the standard deduction is so high now, it's like $27,500, probably a little bit off. I haven't gone to see my CPA yet this year. It's so high that most people don't deduct their mortgage interest anymore because they might pay, say, $15,000 in mortgage interest. So you take the standard deduction, you get more of a deduction than you would if you were to itemize, unless you own a business where you have actual qualified, justifiable business expenses. Now, that doesn't mean a guy like me who is a 1099 subcontracted employee through Google with YouTube, Facebook, Amazon affiliate marketing, self-publishing. I've got 15 or 20 different 1099s that come in every year. And that's part of my major announcement coming up too, brah. I can't justify buying a four-wheeler. Let me tell you something that I would like to have. I'm not materialistic, I'm not consumeristic, but I would like to have a UTV just for the fun of it. Now, I don't have one because it's not practical, and I don't want to sell stocks that are making 8 to 10% dividend yields for me, reinvesting every quarter, buying more shares for free because I already own all the shares I have, to go buy something that depreciates in value, because I'm just not stupid with money. All right? Now, a lot of folks who are small business owners like me would go out and buy that and then try to claim that as a deduction on their taxes. Well, let me tell you how that works. Mr. and Mrs. IRS shows up when they do an audit up to 3 years after that year's filing, and they say, Mr. Small Business Owner who works in social media, who actually doesn't have a tangible product you can touch, who creates nothing physical. Content. I create social media content. Can you please explain to us, the IRS, how you can justify being in need of a $15,000 to $20,000 UTV? Well, because the answer is I don't. I don't need a UTV to make my videos. But if I were to buy one, hey, I have every right to go buy one, and who knows, I might get a little silly with money sometime. I'm getting older. Might be getting a little not quite as sharp up here. Might be stupid and just go out and buy one someday. But if I were to try to take that as a deduction and validate it because I'm a small business owner, you know what that's called? That's called tax fraud. And those people get caught. They get caught. There's this theory out there that if you own a small business, you should never have to pay any taxes. And if you do, your accountant sucks. I had a guy when I was in the Philippines last winter tell me that. We were just talking about stuff, and I was dumb enough to mention my annual income to him. And then I mentioned what it was is we were talking about taxes. He was complaining about taxes, and the dude doesn't even pay any. He's on Social Security disability, has been for 30 years, and he was complaining about some sort of piddly little tax. I mean, he lives in the Philippines because he can't afford to live in the U.S. And I mentioned how much money I paid in taxes, which is a lot. And I'm going to leave it at that. Some of you will be finding out soon, select few of you. And he says to me, he goes, well, you must not be as smart as you think you are. And I said, how so? And he says, well, because if you were smart, why would you be paying all those taxes? You're a business owner. You shouldn't be paying any taxes. People that think that way don't understand taxes. They don't understand money. They certainly don't understand business. My CPA has a law degree from Harvard. Okay, he is a tax accountant and a tax attorney. He told me specifically, he said, Kevin, so many people think that the tax code is some sort of magical labyrinth, that if you're able to maneuver correctly, you don't have to pay a penny in taxes no matter how much you make. He says nothing could be further from the truth. And the people, especially small business owners or trust fund babies who don't have to worry about money because somebody got rich generations before them to provide for them forever, who claim that they don't pay any taxes, are lying either to you or to the IRS. They'd better hope it's just to you, because if they're lying to the IRS, they will get caught. Now, what's this have to do with creepy Uncle Joe banning these gas-powered, the newer ones coming up? And again, they're not all being banned. They must be 13% or more energy efficient than what's currently on the market. So we cleared that one up. Here's where they get you. The combination of them trying to help, them being the government, plus corporate greed. This $2,000 tax credit. Now, I talked about deductions. Let's talk about credits. Credit is applied towards what you actually end up owing. So let's say you do your taxes at the end of the year. Your CPA comes back and says, hey, it's great that you paid your quarterly estimates like you were supposed to, small business owners again. But you had a lot better year than you have the last few years. So you owe 10 grand on top of what you already paid, which is typically the case for us, but it's much more than 10 grand every year despite paying quarterlies, because our business has trended upwards for the last 15 years that we've been in business. If your business, and I tell my wife this all the time, if your business does not trend upward as far as annual revenues go, two things are going on. Number one, you either don't understand the business you're in, and or number two, you need to be in a different line of business because it ain't for you. If you take losses year after year after year, but you hang on because you had a couple of good years 6 or 8 years ago, move on. Somebody moved your cheese, or your cheese was moved, reference to a great book called Who Moved My Cheese. When whatever worked for you back then just ain't working anymore, you got to go somewhere else to get your bread and butter or your cheese in the case of that book, okay? But so here's what's going to happen. They extend this credit. Well, guess what? The companies that sell these products will increase the cost of that product. The people that install those appliances or provide that service will increase the cost of that service by the amount of the credit. Now, how do I know that? Did I see that in a clickbaity headline article somewhere on social media? No, I experienced that last year. One, and again, I'm getting to it. My wife and I are very frugal for several reasons. We know what it's like to not have. We know what it's like not to just be poor, but to be third world poor. Okay, my wife knew it for almost 30 years, 28 years before we came to the U.S. I knew poverty on an American level for the first half of my childhood, but the second half of my childhood, I didn't. My parental figure was making decent money by then, and so I didn't have those struggles. But the stigma stayed with me. However, in many ways. However, when I was down and out in the Philippines for many years, I knew third world poverty, which is something nobody in this country knows. That's a fact, Jack. So we never want to go back to that. As such, we're not stupid with money. We're not consumeristic. We're not materialistic. We know the difference between a need and a want, because for many years, for my wife's almost her entire life, our needs weren't met. And when we could meet those needs, we discovered I discovered for probably the first real time in my life the meaning of the word gratitude. Because so much of what I'd always taken advantage of for pretty much always having my needs met, once those needs were not met for a period of years, once those needs came back to me, I was grateful like you couldn't imagine. There are people that laugh at me. I live in a very affluent area now, and I will show my gratitude towards basic necessities in life, and they look down their nose at me like I'm a bumpkin. Like, well, why would you be grateful for that? Of course you should have that. You exist. Why? Well, because once upon a time I didn't have it. And let me tell you, 80% of the world's population who exists in flesh and blood, just like you and I, don't have those needs met. 80% of the world's surface population lives on less than $2 a day. You get outside of the comforts of your plush little zip code in Albemarle County, Virginia, Northern Virginia, parts of the Northeast, and out on the West Coast, the LA Hills, Orange County, you'll see what it's like. And then you get out of the U.S., you'll really see what it's like. All right, so we experienced that because we had our heating and cooling system replaced last year. We bought this old house. It's 122 years old this year. It was built in 1903. We had to put money into it to fix it up, a lot of it. In our first couple of years here, we put $20,000 into the plumbing. We had to have the PEC lines run under the house, had to replace the water pump, the entire pump, the reserve tank. We had to have electrical work done. So anyway, we got to the point to where, so our only heating and cooling system, it had no cooling system. We got window unit air conditioners because we could afford to buy some from Lowe's and pay in cash and not have debt. We refused to go in debt. If you're in debt, you're enslaved. Okay, I watch a guy on Facebook named Dave Ramsey. Most of you probably have heard of him. He has a saying, and it's actually it's a Proverbs quote. He says, "Borrower is what was it? No, he says borrower is slave to the lender." If you're in debt, you are enslaved. Modern day slavery is not about chains; it's about debt. So we refuse it because we don't want to go back to being poor. So the only heating we had up until this past year was baseboard heating plus our cast iron wood stove. We love our wood stove, but our first year here, we were out of wood once and we didn't have access to it because we had just moved here the previous year, didn't really know anybody. And at the time, couldn't really afford to go out and buy any because firewood around here, well-seasoned red oak, sells for $250 a truckload. And we were struggling. We had a setback with our business there for a couple of years, but got trending back upwards, and we've not looked back for the last 8 years. So our heating bill was actually, our electric bill was $600 one month. That's how expensive the baseboard was. So anyway, we made sure to stay stocked up on firewood. We got several years worth out back now. But this year we were able to get ductless, the split ductless system, right? Now we looked at doing this over the previous couple of years, and we had the guys come out. They gave us a quote, $6,000. This a couple of years ago, before this new energy bill passed, $6,000. We didn't do it at the time because we had just paid a bunch of income taxes, and we didn't have the excess cash on hand to pay in full, and that company didn't have any sort of financing options, and we didn't want to go in debt anywhere else at high interest, so we put it off for a little while longer. So this past year, after a couple of really good back-to-back years, we said, hey, let's get this ductless and heating. It's only $6,000. So we had the guys come back out, same companies, same guys, looked around the house the same way they did before, gave us another quote. You know what the quote was? $8,000. Said, wow, you guys were out here, couldn't have been 18 months ago, and it was only $6,000. How did the cost of this go up by $2,000 in that period of time? You know what he said? He says, oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about the extra, the increase. I'm like, why, are you going to give me a discount? So they said, no. Do you not know about the government just passed that new efficient energy thing, that bill? And so they're giving you a $2,000 tax credit for having this done because the products we use are that Energy Star thing. They meet the standards. And he said, so basically, the government's going to pay that extra $2,000 for the increase of this good and service we're providing for you when you file your taxes next year, because you'll get that $2,000 tax credit. So if you owe, you'll owe $2,000 less, and if you're getting a refund, which I don't even know what that means, you'll get $2,000 more. I'm like, oh. So the government's paying it for me. So folks, that's how they get you. The government comes in, and I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, a lot of these public servants do have good intentions. They truly do want to help the people. But it's a combination of their rose-colored glasses views of reality, which is not the reality of the world we live in, combined with corporate greed. There's their story, and the truth is right there in the middle when you mix it up. So folks, don't get all bent out of shape when you see something online, especially a headline, and you think, oh, this is going to destroy me, this is going to ruin me, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, I hate this person or that person or that person. Wouldn't it be great if nobody hated anybody? So here's my major announcement. At the end of this video, I'm going to put another video that pops up in the boxes of, videos. Shoot, I'm always crumbling up my papers after I talk. I actually wrote down the title of that video. I would like to ask a bunch of you to go watch just the tail end of that video because you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. That video is titled Shocking. Lone Wolf Goes Rogue on Recent Drone, Plasmoids, UFOs, and Alien Abduction Phenomenon. Watch the first minute and 20 seconds of that, and then go ahead and skip forward to the 16 minutes mark, 15:50. Watch to the end. Now, there's some stories in between that were sent in from viewers to the email address of the channel that are actually worth listening to, and I would recommend listening to those. But if you're pressed for time, just listen to the first minute and a half, and then go to the 15:50 mark, 16 minutes, and listen to that. I'm doing something different here with this channel. It's something that I've considered off and on throughout the years, but the answer has always come back to me, definitely not, don't do that. But recently, and you'll understand when you watch that, the answer has come back, definitely. It's time to do it. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but I will be going into great detail in a made for members only video that I'm going to be making within the next 24 to 48 hours. Yes, I am now offering memberships on this channel. It's just one level of memberships. It's $5.99 a month. What the perks that will come with that, it's going to be a lot of the stuff you guys have requested and a lot of the stuff I've wanted to do for some time that I just haven't because I've not felt so safe in doing it. One is going to be live streams. I will go live at least once a week. We will have interactive lives. All members can participate. You can ask me any question you want to ask. You can make any statement to me you want to make. Already got a couple of moderators who have stepped up to help me with that, though I don't think their help will be too required as far as pardon the background noise. Got a garbage truck going by. I'm a lot closer to the road than I usually am. I wanted to get this frozen pond in view here. Hey, and kudos to those guys out here working in 17-degree temperatures. If you're out here working in these conditions, my hat's off to you. I got a lot of respect for you. It'd be so easy to sit inside and stay warm right now, but you're out here working. You are what makes America and the world go round. So anyway, we're going to do live streams. I am going to post personal snippets about my life, my family's life, pictures, activities we're doing. I will have my wife dearly and our son Daniel in videos with me again. I'm doing this because there are certain things I just don't want to deal with anymore. I'm going to quote Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, she's an objectivist. I follow her philosophy. She's said many wise things, but one of the things she says in regard to money is this. There's a Zen-like feeling of peace that comes with knowing you don't need money. Now, when you're a guy like me, and I've kind of described a lot of my background, who spends the majority, as in 40 plus years of your life, needing money, and then you finally get to a point to where you don't, which I have several years back now, it kind of takes that Zen type peace some time to kick in because you go for half a century almost of, man, I got to do this work. I don't really feel like doing it, but gosh, I need the money. I don't come from a wealthy family. I didn't win the lottery, I got to take care of my family. And that's always been my number one priority, taking care of my family and keeping us safe. But then after a while, it starts to sink in. It's like, wow, and this is the facts. I'm not being braggadocious. I'm just telling you, if I never earned another cent in my life, I would be able to continue to take care of my family to the degree that I currently do. Our needs would be met. We would still be able to travel as frequently as we want. And now that's a combination of many things. Yes, having made a lot of money throughout the years, literally millions of dollars on social media throughout the years. Secondly, it's from our thrift. We have no debt other than our mortgage. And the only reason I haven't paid that off is because the interest rate's only 3.15%. And it's not for the interest deduction. I take the standardized deduction because that's more than what I pay in interest every year on the house, on the mortgage. And I get more interest on my lazy money and liquid savings, not to even mention the dividend yields on our investments. And I mentioned earlier, literally almost 20 different income streams, residual income from work we've done for years and years and years that is now paid off. And folks, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm in my 50s. I guess just like everybody else who has real jobs, or everybody else who had real jobs for all those years and were finally able to retire, I've worked myself into a position through self-employment to be able to retire. And in essence, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to call it semi-retirement because I'm an active person and I do enjoy creating social media content. I do enjoy so many of you who have been here, so many of you for the whole 8 years we've been here. But I want to do it on my terms. I want to make the content that I want to make. My wife's cooking videos. I want to, people have been coming to the channel because of a video I made a couple of months ago about a letter I received from a parent of a young athlete I coached 15 years ago out on the West Coast. And people are saying, you need to make more videos about your coaching experiences and parenthood and fatherhood. And this is such a big thing today. And I'm going to be making a video about this on the membership only channel. One of the things, a burr that really got under my saddle, coaching in this zip code where there's a lot of affluence, is I'll often hear people who are very well-to-do, who have a tendency to look down on their noses at people who they consider to be lower socioeconomic status. And they'll say, Coach, I really feel bad for that kid. And I'll look over at the kid they're pointing at. And it's usually a kid that's actually a really good, like an exceptional athlete on our team. And the parent doing the talking about the kid, yes, a child is the parent of a kid who is a bench warmer. Okay? And they'll say something to the effect of, I feel so sorry for that kid because what a terrible home life they must go home to. That burns me up. You know why? Because let me tell you, that kid goes home to a home life, the lower socioeconomic kid, where he or she, I've coached both genders, have two parents that love them. Sometimes they come from divorced households and they've got two sets of parents that love them. And their fathers, this is what I see so much in my zip code. And trust me, I'm going to blow them up on the memberships only channel. You got all these fathers who think that because they earn a lot or because they come from money, somehow they have access to funds, that's where it begins and that's where it ends with fatherhood. They spend zero time with their sons. They leave the burden of this boy becoming a man on their wives. And they say, well, I make so much money, I don't need to go out in the yard and pass football with my kid. That's what the coaches are for. That's what his other teammates are for. Let me tell you, it's the kids who had somebody, usually their father in their lives, out there, or a brother, and sometimes the mom from single mother families out there, getting them so much further ahead in their level of athleticism, whatever it is they're doing, than the ones who thought they were doing, I'm providing, I'm earning. So listen, I'm getting off on a tangent. It boils down to this, and I'll go into further detail in the video I'm going to make for the members only channel. My family's being threatened again. I've had to get law enforcement involved again. We have had people look up our address, send me emails, and say, I know where you live. You'll be seeing us soon. We are coming for you. And it's not the government. It's people that watch YouTube. So again, that video should be coming up right about now. Watch it. And in regards to the statement Ayn Rand made, I don't need that. My number one priority in my life is to take care of and provide for my family, keep my family safe. Once upon a time, I had to endure these threats. And yes, we actually have had to get law enforcement involved in the past before because they were real. I don't have to anymore. I don't need the money, despite the accusations being made against me for having the audacity to come out here and share my views like literally billions of other YouTube content creators. Billions. But those of us who succeed will always be hated by those who haven't, will always be targeted. Once upon a time, I had to endure it because I kind of needed that to be able to take care of my family. Today, our cup runneth over. I don't need to put up with that crap. I hope many of you do subscribe to my membership-only channel. That's where the cool stuff's going to be. That's where you're going to get the live streams, the shout-outs, all the cool stuff. Videos that, whatever. If I wake up that day and I want to make a video about how to make stuffed animals from home using materials you find in your own forest, that's what I'm going to make. See you for more next time at some point.